when we talk about attachment, it pairs very well with Teddy's definition of trauma because it is really giving that biological function of safety. And that's one of the first things that we talk about being robbed of when we talk about trauma. The biological function of safety means that we're trying to seek proximity to people that are better able to cope in the world. And so John Bowlby's attachment theory was really based on that biological need. That starts to foster the development of the agency, the dignity, and the belongingness. What we found in the research as it expanded is that kids can do this with multiple individuals. It's not just something that happens at home, but that teachers and people at schools can also be viable attachment figures. And we've even found that when people have very, very good attachments with their families at home, sometimes the best way to make an attachment with that child is by making attachment with the family, right? So again, we tend to seek proximity to someone who is available, both physically and emotionally, someone who gives a feeling of security, someone that shows they actually value their relationship, and someone that can encourage further interaction. So just take 1 minute with your shoulder partner and think about what's some strategies that you already are using or you think that you might want to use to be intentional about forming some strong attachments in the classroom or in your school environment.
Like the long two, like, you know, and I think
It starts with the adult. The kid's gonna act out, the kid's gonna do what they do, but us as adults to de-escalate the situation. And Ms. Jones doesn't do that without being self-aware of her own trauma. So the school closing down, other kids' parents get killed. That all is like her cumulative trauma. That's all things that are building up, and now she's this child that is screaming and crying, like Ms. Holmes said, she just wants it to stop. But that's not the right way to handle that. She needs to come with a better mindset, because adults can still control the situation, no matter how out of control it needs to be.
It was important for us to recognize that these things, like this situation still happens. It probably will still happen after this. So like, what do we do to make the story end a little bit better? So like, of course, you know, like intervention tools. So I yelled at the student, kid put the table, whatever, but what happens after to try and fix their relationship? So having that discourse with that kid and saying, I shouldn't have yelled at you, but you definitely shouldn't have flipped that table. What prompted you to do that? How can I support you, right? As adults, you also have to tell kids, like, I'm not above apologizing or owning what I did. I definitely shouldn't have yelled. We're gonna fix this relationship, but you still owe me my homework, but we're gonna do that.
It's also very hard to be that intentional with a large group of students. So I had like 2 fights when I first got here, and it was like, okay, that's the ending student fight. And one thing I learned today is when we all experience something traumatically together, it's important to redirect it and correct it together as well. Yeah. Last year, I probably pulled the students to the side, like, look, y'all can't be fighting in my class. But it should have been like a group redirection and a group affirmation of like, this is a safe place for everybody. So thank you for that.
Earlier this week, we were talking about the essential 10 habits. And I think my biggest one that I shared was articulate disappointment. And I think it's us articulating our disappointment in the kids and them being able to come back to us, but in a healthy way. So I think what all the initial cause of the situation between Ms. Jones and Caleb was her articulating him, but in a disrespectful way. You know, just making sure we're doing it healthy and, you know, in a great way that everybody, it won't add to no one's stress, you know, things like that.